where do you want to begin? I guess maybe we should begin with the Major League trading deadline, which the deadline, of course, coming up on July 31st, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, I believe. And the Blue Jays making a trade today, and I don't know what you feel about the return, JP. The Blue Jays trading Jay Happ to the Yankees for Brandon Drury, an infielder who has spent time with the Yankees already, and an outfielder by the name of Billy McKinney, who was a first-round pick not that long ago. What do you think about this trade, KP? I'm going to throw it over to you. See, what do you think? Do you think it's a good deal for both sides, or one side, or anybody?
Well, thanks. But I think, first of all, I don't like the idea of trading within the division, first of all. And I think, if you look at the Yankees right now, they're kind of desperate because they've fallen a few games behind the Red Sox in the American League East. And as of right now, they only have one starter who's, anything that you can call reliable. So I would say the Yankees are kind of desperate right now. And I don't know. Again, we're talking about like a 5.5 game difference now between them and the Red Sox. And of course, your goal in any division is to go and win that division, because you want to avoid that wild card game where, one game situation, anything can happen. So having said that, and, the Yankees having, having problems with their starting rotation at the moment, I would say that, perhaps the Blue Jays or any team that was going to make a trade with them probably could have asked for more. Then we are on the 26th right now. So there are, a few days before the 31st. So I don't know. I guess, the Blue Jays just wanted to get, this trade, get it over with, I suppose. But I don't think that, they asked for enough. It's just, again, looking at how the Yankees are desperate right now, I would have asked for more.
Yeah, I think the Jays, I agree. I think they could have played the waiting game on this. Billy McKinney, a first-round pick, and I guess he's really considered the key to the deal, but I don't know. It seems like the Jays have an awful lot of outfielders already in the system. I know, these things always tend to work themselves out, but I think pitching help was what the Jays really could have used. I guess that's what General Manager Ross Atkins wants to take a look at, is trying to, look at more pitching in future deals. There is talk that maybe Marcus Stroman's on the block, maybe Roberto Osuna is on the block, a couple of former Vancouver Canadians. Yeah, I agree with you. I think they could have waited. Again, as you mentioned, 5 days left until the deadline, but I guess you have to wonder too, how much of a distraction is it to the other players on the team, knowing that, Jay Happ, he's not going to be here for much longer, and I'm sure that in a way, maybe it's just kind of, best to move on. But I don't know. I've also heard maybe the Jays can sign Jay Happ again in the offseason. Like, that's been talked about. And I don't know how true it is, but it seems like Happ might be amenable to that. But yeah, I really do agree that if it's a divisional opponent, I think there's got to be a bit of a premium paid in a trade. And I think the Yankees, I don't think they gave up a lot. Considering. So
you just hate to have the guy come back in a Yankees uniform and pitch against you.
Yes.
I know the Jays are well off the race, but still, just trading within the division, I just don't like the idea. And you mentioned Stroman as well as Osuna. I've also heard right-hander Marco Estrada on the being mentioned as one of the guys rumored to be traded. I mean, obviously he's still on the disabled list, has not pitched since July the 3rd. It's unknown when he will return to the rotation. But, if he's healthy, Estrada could very well be moved as well. I mean, look at after having a tough start to this season, he's had a 2.90 ERA since the beginning of June until he got hurt. Pitched well against the Yankees, the Angels, the Nationals. Was decent against Houston in his last few starts before going to the DL. So Estrada, even though he's 4-7, 4.72 ERA overall, and hasn't pitched since early July. He's another one. He's another name that should be interesting to see if there's any interest among the other teams. Again, depending on his health, we'll see.
Yeah, well, the blister issue popping up, it appears, for Marco Estrada, and fortunately that's not anything new as far as the Blue Jays are concerned. Aaron Sanchez out with a finger contusion, but of course he was sidelined for basically all of 2017 with a blister issue. And just kind of taking a look at some of the reviews of this trade between Jay Happ and the Yankees and getting back Billy McKinney and Brandon Drury, Drury is a very controllable infielder, but it seems like a lot of people seem to think that, the Yankees, I think they got, they didn't pay a whole heck of a lot trying to get Jay Happ. And as you mentioned, it's something that helps out the New York Yankees rotation big time. The Yankees, they've really had their troubles with Tampa Bay, and they're trying to keep pace with Boston. As you mentioned, they're trying to win the division, don't have to depend on a one-game wild card, which, who knows who that wild card game is going to involve. You have the Seattle Mariners and the Oakland A's all of a sudden. Oakland really turning it on. I believe they've won, 25 or 26 of their last 33 games. Like, they have really stepped it up, and they are breathing down the Mariners' necks, and the Mariners getting a win yesterday afternoon at Safeco Field against San Francisco. But I'll tell you what, that's turning out to be a heck of a race. Just when it looked like, well, there's going to be no races in the American League, all of a sudden, now there is a race for the second wild card in the American League.
Well, we should give Chantel Chan some credit here. Chantel's sitting over there behind us.
Yes.
Weeks ago, we were in this studio, and Chantel suggested that Oakland might be a dark horse. I think we all kind of laughed at that, but look at the standings right now.
She's digging up the audio right now. I can tell you that one. She's going to dig it up. She's going to say, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so.
It's a 1.5 game difference in the wild card standings between the Mariners and the A's, but with Seattle, I know we were talking about this before, Niall, something about how if Seattle were to go 500 the rest of the way, they would still make the playoffs, yada yada yada. But that's a big assumption that the Mariners, could. They could lose a lot more. You just never know. I think Lou mentioned this a few weeks ago as well. How have the Mariners been doing it? Like, the starting rotation, it's been James Paxton and the rest of the guys. And I looked this up before, but they still have a bunch of games left against Houston. I believe 13 games left against Houston the rest of the season.
Ouch.
Those are huge. 7 against the Angels left, and 10 against Oakland. So you look at those, that's 30 games combined the rest of the season against the Angels, against the A's, against the Astros. And in fact, the Mariners are off today, but they begin a 3-game series against the Angels in Anaheim beginning tomorrow. And I think every time we're in here, they're playing against the Angels. I don't get that. But I still believe the Angels might be one of those teams. I don't know, they're a long ways out of the race, but I don't know. I'm just not sold on Seattle. I know we've been talking about how they've been winning all these close games, and you mentioned them winning yesterday afternoon, but they've also lost 10 of the last 16 games. So.
And Oakland has just gotten hot at the right time. Just checking out the standings right now, it's Oakland. They're 6.5 back of Houston, so Houston might have to worry about Oakland too, the way the A's are going right now, and Seattle is 5 back. So basically, the Mariners have a 1.5 game lead for the second American League wild card. So that's the situation there.
But the Angels, just sorry to cut you off, the Angels are 10.5 behind the Mariners for that second wild card spot. But there's
right at
time.
500. Yeah,
there's time. Yeah.
So anyway, well, after a while, you just kind of circle the airport. And you take a look. Beautiful blue skies here today. Planes are in the air. Everything's good. If you circle the airport long enough, you're eventually able to bring everything in for a landing. As we're making a call to the bullpen, I'm bringing in the lefty. It's situational relief. And I am thrilled and honored and privileged and just happy that Rob Fay and Luke Filippo are in the house.
We made it.
Yes.
Dude, can I start with a pet peeve?
Please do.
So I don't usually travel out to the suburbs very often. I don't usually get to Delta, to Surrey, to Richmond. My little alcove in the world is Port Coquitlam. Dude, I spent 155 minutes getting to the Massey Tunnel. It took me longer. And to those of you that are there right now, I apologize because I'm actually through. I'm one of the survivors. It took me less time, God's honest truth, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, to get from Everett to Vancouver than it did to get out of that line and get under that friggin' tunnel. Somebody tell me who's responsible for that. Who thought, hey, I know, I'll do a one-way tunnel. 1 lane each way. That's all we'll need for all the horses and carriages. Oh, my God. I'm sorry. I never like to bring in stuff. I know it's a baseball show, but somebody fix it.
Yes.
Someone.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Who's responsible for the tunnel? Is it the mayor of Richmond, Malcolm Brody? Is it the mayor of Surrey, whoever that is?
It's the province.
The province.
And they were planning a bridge which would kind of help you get across a little bit quicker, but I believe that is on hold now because, Rob, as you discovered today, it's not needed.
I'm going to tell you something right now. You know who the richest guy in the province would be? Some dude that set up water stations. Somebody that said, you know what, for $1, when I went to Tijuana, which lasted about 45 minutes.
Talking about bucks.
Smartest person was the person that had, little churros on the side of the road so that while you're sitting there for 2 hours waiting to get through the border, you could buy a churro. Because what else are you going to do? You're going to sit there and skim through a bunch of radio stations?
Wow.
So anyways, there, I've had my diatribe, only to get us to another one whenever you're ready to talk about the J.A. Happ trade.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've kind of skimmed the beginning.
Oh, I know. KP's indecisiveness. He's gutless today.
Oh, what?
I don't like it. I didn't like the return. I just felt there should have been more of a premium, or the Jays could have held out. They still had 5 days to work with, but it seemed like they just wanted to get J.A. Happ out.
Those were my exact words, yes.
Well, I mean, I think if the longer they wait, someone else is going to jump in, send them their expiring contract, and get back even less. If you get something for something that's going to be nothing, you've gotten something. It might be pennies on the dollar, it might be dimes, but it's better than getting zero, as we're about to find out.
Honestly, it's the Yankees. I would have preferred they'd gotten zero from Jay. I mean, I honestly would have preferred that, to be quite honest. I kind of like, I'm going to use kind of like a Canucks analogy here, if you don't mind. Remember when Dan Hamhuis was not traded at the deadline, and the Canucks just felt like whatever the return was going to be just wasn't worth making the trade for? Honestly, I would have preferred that. Well, in a way, you don't give away something for nothing.
Well, if you're going to get nothing out of it at the end of the day, you give it away for something, because if your scouting department is as good as they say they are, you might get something out of that second rounder.
Yeah, I don't know. I was not thrilled when I saw
you just traded an all-star left-hander to somebody within your division, and they gave you minor leaguers back. I think everybody at Yankees headquarters is laughing.
Oh, I'm sure
the Yankees are desperate right now. They only have one reliable starting pitcher in their rotation. They're 5.5 games back of Boston in the American League East race. I think the Blue Jays did them a favor by giving them an all-star.
You just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
You just did the Yankees a favor.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to like division rivalry?
Yeah.
Like, I would rather give that to any other team than somebody from the American League East.
Yeah. But if you're going to take that move at a loss going outside the division, and you can get something decent inside the division, every day of the week you trade inside the division. And trades are always like that. We can look at this and say, okay, you know what? They got nothing. Well, you know what? A lot of people thought John Segura was nothing when he was traded for T1 Walker. Guess what now? Who's smiling now? You get anything you can, because J.A. Happ is of no use to this team going forward, because they're going to be in a rebuilding mode.
Would you trade Marcus Stroman?
If the offer was good enough, and there's nobody on this team that is untouchable. Now,
one?
Who would be untouchable?
Okay, let me pull the lens back. Organizationally, who's the only guy that's untouchable?
Vladimir.
Would you trade him?
If you got something really, really stupid in return, and we're talking about stupid in return,
Mike Trout.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, Mike Trout's of no use because the rest of the team stinks, just like in California, just like in Anaheim. I almost said California there. But if you were to get a plethora of young players, a few guys who are already in the majors, and some premium A1 prospects, I would do it. But it would have to be one heck of a haul.
So a couple of years ago, they said that Marcus Stroman was on the block for Charlie Blackmon. And I thought about this the other day. I'm like, why didn't they do this? And somebody said, well, it was all about controllability, that they had Stroman for the next 3 years. He's a front of the end rotation guy. So forget Blackmon for a second. Is Marcus Stroman a front of the rotation guy? I.e., is he a 1 or a 2?
Maybe a 2.
If it's a Stroman of a few years ago, sure. The Stroman of right now, of course not.
No.
Well, I think since he's come off the DL, I think he's pitched pretty well. 3 ERA. I mean, and we're talking about his 5-year career. His numbers have been decent. I would say he's 2 or 3.
I don't think they're as good as advertised. I think he's such a hype machine, and I think the Blue Jays are so desperate to have an alpha in that, in the marketing scheme of the Blue Jays. He's got numbers that are comparable to Luis Leal, if you want to really go back into the 80s. But no, think about it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, is he a 20-game winner? No. Is Marcus Stroman a 16-game winner? The only thing that Marcus Stroman is good at is logging innings and good on Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm sorry. If you look at Marcus Stroman as a alpha male, because he's the guy that was bitter. He wasn't the opening day starter a couple of years ago. He's bitter because he was the guy. Him and David Price were going to take the Toronto Blue Jays to the next millennium. The most wins Marcus Stroman has in his career are 13. 13. And yet everybody talks about Marcus Stroman like he's the guy. Sorry, I'm from a generation where the guy put 24 or 25 wins up on the board. Now, don't get me wrong, I know it's a different era of baseball, and you can't say that anymore, but I'm sorry. I think for a guy whose 5-year career record is 40-32, somebody in the marketing department is banging it far too hard, and I promise you this, he would not get the return on investment that a lot of people think for Marcus Stroman. With all due respect, you want to talk about a guy that I would move? Marcus Stroman would be the guy.
Yeah.
Controllability or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the value is there, and you still want to get some value.
But what do you think the value for Marcus Stroman is?
Still, I would say a high-end prospect.
Is it more than J.A. Happ got?
Based on controllability and age, I would say yes. Now, but you're talking about today. That's like saying, is Bo Horvat worth more than Jay Beagle? Jay Beagle has a Stanley Cup ring. Well, no, but he's also 32. You have to take all these things into account depending on where you're sending them. If you're going to send him to a team that is also in a rebuild mode or in a middling mode, yeah, sure, you might get more back. But if you send him to another team that's quite frankly down in the toilet, of course you're not going to get anything valuable back except their problem. So his value, his only value, would be if in the next 5 days somebody on Boston, Houston, LA, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, or New York, if their arm falls off, they'll be interested in Marcus Stroman and pay for him. Aside from that, he's not going anywhere.
I look at it like this: overrated. And I'll leave it at that. And we could debate that over the course of the next couple hours. We're going to take a break here, but when we come back, we're not done with the trade talk yet because there's more rumors. This is the greatest time of year to have a baseball show because there is so much mud that you can throw at the wall, and some of it will stick. I know KP's got the slow burn going, the statistical assassin's ready to bring out some key numbers here. But how about this one? The Cubs have a deal in place, apparently, according to Jeff Passan, to acquire Cole Hamels from the Texas Rangers. It's an interesting trade because the reality is yes, he gives the Cubs a little more organizational depth. He gives them some rotational depth. But are the Cubs done? Have they missed their window? They've got all this talent. They've got a couple of years removed from World Series. But a lot of people think, and here's my question for you. In the next 5 years, how many World Series championships do you think the Cubs could or should win? The over-under is 1. We'll take a break. You're listening to Vancouver Canadians Game Day, powered as always by Booster Juice here on TSN 1040. Royals, and on a 3-2 count, the 6th pitch of the at-bat. In the first inning, he takes a 94-mile-an-hour fastball from Jakob Hughes off the right wrist. Slow walk down to first base. Steve Donahue, no relation to Niall O'Donoghue, and Aaron Boone came out and said, nope, that's about it.
Sorry. How did you pronounce it? Yeah.
I don't know. It just sounded like a good way to. Who knows, man?
That's close. That's close.
Am I right? Am I wrong? Who knows? Who the heck is Jacob Junis? Or who knows, man?
Sorry.
It's a rookie. He'll figure it out a couple of years down there. He's 0-5. Who cares?
Reminds of a story of a Giants pitcher named Jerome Williams in 2003. They kept calling him Jeremy for a whole year, and he didn't say anything because he was a rookie, was intimidated, and he went by Jeremy because that's what everyone called him. Jerome Williams.
Well, that sounds like Kendry. It was Kendry Morales, then became Kendris. So yeah, these things happen.
Dude, the best is nobody in this town knows how to say Elias Pettersson. There's like 6 different variations, and nobody's gonna buckle. He came out on the radio and said his name properly, and people still botch it. Nope, it's Elias Pettersson. No, it's Elias Peterson. He said it himself, and people are still going to the other way. Anyways, I don't care. It's all fine. But yeah, Jakob, whatever, hit him with a 94-mile-an-hour heater. The rookie takes out one of the best in the game. Dude, he's a 29th rounder from 2011.
He'll be back.
Yeah, I'll be Beethoven.
Those are thick risks.
All right, let's. There's a joke there somewhere. Okay, bottom line is we can't finish without getting back to the pitchers because, again, there's a lot of movement already here at this trade deadline. Cole Hamels to the Cubs. Just before we went to the break, I said, listen, man, a couple of years ago, we were setting the Cubs up as the next great dynasty in Major League Baseball because they had young talent at all the key positions. Albert Amora, Chris Bryant, Baez. I mean, they were a team locked and loaded. They had good pitching. And then, of course, they came back to down to reality. And that's okay. Little hangover after the first World Series in more than 100 years. Fair enough. But I don't know if I see them as what everybody billed the Chicago Cubs to be. They're a good team, but I don't know if they are the dynasty in the making. So, okay, next 5 years, over, under, 1 World Series championship. Taking the over, you taking the under.
I'm calling a push on that.
So one more.
I think they're good
Dude,
enough.
that's such a soft take.
But they're good enough to get. They are good enough to get one. Let's not forget, with all these troubles they've had, they still got 60 wins.
They're still in first place.
Yeah, they're
just in first place.
Their run differential is the best in the National League by 20 runs. So they are not a slouch. Now, how will they match up against the Dodgers? Who knows? Against the Phillies, Braves, I wouldn't sweat it if I was the Cubs. Dodgers might worry me, especially now with Machado. Dodgers have their own problems. They're as good a bet to get out of that league, being that they have the best record in the league, as any other team. And after that, you get to the World Series, crapshoot.
Well, I think you can pretty much say the entire playoffs really is a crapshoot these days. But yeah, I still believe in the Cubs. You're just kind of waiting. They were kind of dormant there for a while, and the Brewers, still very much in contention in the National League Central. But I don't know. I guess for me, the Brewers are kind of like how you guys perceive the Seattle Mariners. That what they're doing is not real. And I was kind of wondering when the Brewers are going to come back down to earth. And it looks like they have. Pittsburgh. I mean, look at what the Pirates are doing. They're just reeling off an 11-game winning streak, which I believe came to an end yesterday. But I still think the Cubs, I think they're going to probably be good to go in the NL Central.
Well, if you're talking about the next 5 years, and if the line is set at 1.5, I will go under. I would say they could win one more. But again, you're looking at the current situation where there's no such thing as a dynasty. Do we call the San Francisco Giants a dynasty for 3 championships in a 5 or 6 year span?
If they were consecutive, I would.
Yeah, no, it's 5 years.
Every
I mean, you look at last year was Houston. Before that was the Cubs. Before that was the Royals, the Giants, the Red Sox, Giants, Cardinals, Giants. There's no dynasty in the current baseball format because, again, in the playoffs, it's a crapshoot. You have wild card teams making it. There's no disadvantage to the wild card getting in because they have an extra day's rest before they move on into the divisional series. Really, there's no disadvantage for wild card teams, but maybe for the teams that are resting, if they win the division, they might have a disadvantage going to the playoffs because they have too many days off.
Okay, well,
so I'm just saying there's no dynasty, but if you're asking for the next 5 years, I could see them winning 1.
I see 2.
Soft.
I'm going to say 2.
You guys are all soft.
No, I'm going to go 2. I didn't answer the question.
Let's finish KP's thought. Let's say KP. What in today's day and age in Major League Baseball would make a dynasty? Because he brings up a good point about the Giants. 3 championships in 5 years. He's pretty good.
It is.
Yep.
Is that a dynasty?
I don't know if you have to at least win a couple back-to-back. We're going to find out what a dynasty is.
Well,
watching the Houston Astros for the next few years because that team is set up to be a dynasty.
Yeah, but so were the Cubs. To
Exactly.
Houston is what Chicago was 2 years ago.
No, there's a big difference between those two teams. The starting staff of Chicago, when they won their World Series, and don't forget, they brought Chapman in for that, brought him back, is nothing remotely close to the staff in Houston. The players in Chicago, outside of Chris Bryant, were a little bit older, not terribly old. Here you've got Altuve, you've got shortstop. I mean, they're just...
I bring up the Phillies.
I don't know, man. I think you could make a case. I mean, the beauty of the Cubs and why you said the D word with them is because they were young, because they had controllability, because you looked at Almora and Baez and you looked at Rizzo and you said to yourself, boy, this is a core that could stick around for a long time. Don't get me wrong. There is no questioning that Houston's rotation as it stands today is better than anything the Cubs have had for 100 years. But I sit back and I say to myself, in this day and age of sport, and correct me if I'm wrong, and you're more than welcome to, you've got to look at two things because no team stays together for 10 years anymore. So to me, a dynasty is 3 championships within a span of 6 to 7 years because that's really how long you can keep a core before somebody gets paid the big dollars somewhere else. And you got the cap and the luxury taxes and all the stuff that comes with different sports. So to me, to look back at the Giants who won 3 World Series within 5 years, even though none of them are back-to-backs, that's still an incredible run in today's day and age because they kept a core together that had Buster Posey and had all the, the pieces there. Even the Panda was there for a little bit. You had Bumgarner. I don't know. To me, that's as close to a baseball dynasty as we've probably seen since the Atlanta Braves, who only won one World Series championship, but to me is the last true baseball dynasty because of how many playoff runs they had coming out of the American League East. Even though they didn't win a World Series, that to me is a dynasty because of how good, 12 straight National League East titles? That doesn't happen in sport anymore. That to me is a dynasty.
Well, no, but that's a pretty bad division. I mean, the Yankees in the late 90s, you go 95 to 2000 whatever. I mean, they won 4 and they
you can make a case that that's a dynasty. Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, going back to, let's say, the Phillies of the 2010s or 2008, 2009, 2010
years.
Again, they were talking about how this is the greatest rotation ever. They got Halladay, they got Hamels, they had Oswald. I think they even had a young J.A. Happ in there somewhere.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So they're talking about this as like the best rotation ever, and they did not win the World Series that year. And they just crumbled. I mean, you're talking about teams that have the potential to become a quote-unquote dynasty, but it sometimes doesn't work out that way because you don't know what's going to happen in the playoffs. You don't know what's going to happen with injuries. You don't know what's going to happen with another number of factors.
Or how about Oakland when they had the big 3 of Zito, Mulder, and...
I don't think they even won a series, a playoff series.
But, I mean, they ruled the AL West. Of course, it was the Moneyball era, but that was a team that was expected. Hudson, that's who I was trying to remember.
The best rotation of my lifetime, and I was born in 1974, is early 90s in Atlanta.
Oh, not even close.
I mean, well, no, you could make a case that Houston's on the cusp of that. I mean, but for me, when you lined up Smoltz, Glavine, Maddox, 1, 2, 3, and then you had,
Avery.
Avery wasn't even the best of them.
But he was number 4.
When it was, I guess in 91 when they first made it to the playoffs, he was being compared to Steve Carlton, a bunch of Hall of Famers. That's how good he was at that time.
I'll tell you this, if Houston was to go out and get one more guy, if Houston could get one more guy, you could have that conversation.
Oh, the rotation is not Atlanta's. No, it is not Atlanta's of the mid 90s, not early 90s. Maddox didn't show up till a couple of years later.
That's right.
But that rotation, you go 1 through 4 there. There's not a soft spot there, and you get into a short series. You only have to face 3 of them.
But Houston's one more away. Houston's a Steve Avery away from being the Atlanta Braves of the 90s, where you show up at the ballpark and it doesn't matter. You're going to lose anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, you look at Boston. Does their rotation really frighten you? No.
Yeah,
it doesn't. It doesn't.
Chris
Sale and Price have no success in the playoffs, which means now who's your number 1? Porcello. Thank you very much. I'll take that any day of the week.
Didn't that guy just win a Cy Young? He gets no respect.
Well, he did. He got one of those offshoot Cy Youngs that occasionally once got.
Oh, an offshoot. That's cold-blooded, man. That's a Cy Young. He had a great season.
Jimmy Garcia almost won a Cy Young, and what would you say of him? What's Porcello done outside of that? He almost stole another one from Halliday, like Cliff Lee.
That's like in the NFL saying the Baltimore Ravens, it was a one-off Super Bowl, or the Seahawks one-off Super Bowl.
Well, no, the Seahawks were totally different story. Seahawks were a good team that is badly coached. That one-off Super Bowl is going to be, what you probably saw from the Eagles last year.
Poorly coached?
They were poorly coached. Then why have they only? They should have 3 in their back pocket, possibly 4. Unfortunately, the coach is running on the sideline going rah 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 instead of telling guys what to do. Hey, let's throw it from the
Dude,
line.
rah rah is one play shy of back-to-back Super Bowls. All right, it's a baseball show. We're gonna have to stick with it.
But that just goes to show how hard it is to win that trophy, to win that championship. Even the Green Bay, they were.
Bill Belichick would disagree.
Okay.
Oh, come on! You're gonna bring out the best guy to ever coach a football team?
There's other guys who won multiple Super Bowls with strong teams. Now, we don't want to get on football.
Hold on. Is Buffalo Bills a dynasty? Yes or no?
Yes.
They have no champion, no Super Bowls.
4 times in a row. I was having this discussion with someone earlier today.
So you're saying a one-off,
That's
like
kinda
the
like the Oakland
Ravens,
A's.
or a one-off, like the Seahawks, is a better team than the Bills of the late 80s, early 90s?
No, the Bills of the the Seahawks were a better team, but the Bills of the early 90s, when they went to 4 straight Super Bowls, is a better team than the Philadelphia Eagles of last year, the Atlanta Falcons of last year. They're just a better team. You're talking about a whole plethora of Hall of Famers, offense, defense, and yes.
Yeah, but you can't close the
special
book on
teams.
guys that are still playing.
Well, they ran into a steamroller each year. That happens. You
And
can
they had
have-
a crappy kicker.
Hey,
What's a worse loss? I know. I'm sorry. Now you got me started on this. What's a worse loss? Not passing it or not giving it to Marshawn on the 1, or having your kicker miss wide wherever he left?
Not giving it to Marshawn on the
Yeah.
one.
Absolutely,
Agreed.
yeah.
Agreed.
That was not a chip shot.
That was a
Yeah.
47-yard.
Yeah, 47-48.
Like, it's
That's
not a chip
For
shot.
one of the best
easy.
kickers of his generation.
Well,
all right, we got to take a
for a
break
couple
here.
of years.
Chantel's all over me right now. She's like, you got to take a break.
It was Marshawn. Definitely Marshawn.
Oh, so finally she pipes up.
I just had to say it.
No, fair enough. All right, we have to take a break here. When we come back, we'll get this back on the rails. KP, where were you on that? Come on, man, hit the mic. Where were you on that?
Well, I said.
All right, let's take a break right here. Vancouver Canadians Game Day, powered by Booster Juice here on TSN.
We haven't had a show since Kawhi.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
One of the worst trades in Raptors history.
Terrible.
No.
Stop it, Lou.
No.
Dude, it's a terrible trade.
Not a terrible trade.
You'll be lucky if he shows up for more than that one-off picture that he
showed up
took.
for-
And by the way, if he was a legit player, do you not think they would have more than just him with Masai in a selfie?
When was the last time we saw Kawhi play like an MVP? I'll wait.
Guy, you traded DeMar DeRozan. You know the
Yeah,
report.
when's the last time we saw DeMar play like an MVP?
We did all last season. The Raptors were number 1 in the East.
regular season MVP. He folded against the
Which
Cavs.
means,
He
Chantel,
folded.
you're all for Kevin Love's contract, right?
No, I'm not even for
Awesome
Kevin
signing.
Love, but for the Raptors,
Awesome signing.
not only was it a bad trade, but DeMar loved playing for Toronto. He loved playing for Canada. You find another player that wants to play for the Raptors like that.
It is professional
Drake.
sports. You play to win the game. Were they going to win anything with DeMar DeRozan?
No, but then you go out and get somebody else. You don't
They
get a
did
guy
agree.
that faked an injury so that he could get out and go to LA and hang out with the Kardashians.
There is a chance here. There is a chance. I know a lot of people think it's slim. Kawhi Leonard's a very quiet guy. And I'm from Toronto, Rob. You're from Toronto as well. You've been there before, and you can go out to places and clubs and bars, and there will be people there who are famous. They are not harassed. They are not bothered.
This whole conversation is trash. I'm sorry. I gotta
Seriously.
Thanks, Rob.
He wants to go to LA, the
fine.
least quiet place in the world. What are you talking
It'll
about?
cost him $90 million to go to LA.
And you know what? He'd probably pay it.
Well,
Oh, come on. No way.
Are you guys going to touch on Machado to LA?
We may have to get back to baseball at some point.
That might be an idea.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Chantel.
There you go.
I like how she tries to bring it
Yes.
back. You and me will sit and talk about the Kawhi thing or whatever his name is all day. Maybe he's a friend with Hakim or whatever his name is. We can go to the I don't know how to pronounce his name team. It's okay. I get called Rob Fye all the time. There you go. It's 3 letters. How do you screw it up? But that's all right. All right. So you know what? Maybe, Chantel, we will follow your lead. Let's talk about Manny Machado because it's a great trade. He was the premier guy and got a premier ransom. 5 prospects. And I think 2 of those 5 are legit. My question to you, if we were to actually move forward on that, he was the big ticket third baseman. The guy that was supposed to be right on his heels can't get on the field.
Yeah.
He is losing dollars by the day. Forget the Blue Jays right now, and the fact that they can't trade this asset for anything more than this conversation. How much money do you think this injury is costing Josh Donaldson at this moment?
Probably close to $100 million. You figure if he was healthy, he's
$20 million. He's what? 20. Well, basically, he's what? 23 million. That's what he signed for this year.
But he's not losing that money. But going forward,
no, I'm just saying, just going by market value. If you kind of prorate that, you would say probably at least 10 million a year.
Well, I mean, my thought is, if he was healthy, okay, somebody. And I'm not going to say this is what he is worth on the open market, but somebody would probably have gone into the ballpark of 5,150. Somebody, if you Gold Glove third baseman, MVP candidate.
He is in his 30s, though, right? He's not like 25.
Somebody. I didn't say it'd be a good deal. Somebody. Jim Benning, maybe. But somebody would offer him that kind of term and that kind of dollar.
Shots fired.
And what's he looking at now? He's looking at possibly a 1 or 2 year deal.
Yeah.
Definitely on the low side of 10, I would think, unless he can somehow get healthy in the second half of the season. And
we're already in the second half of the season.
Post trade deadline, because he has no trade value. He has no trade value even to a contender, because they don't even know if he is going to play. Unless you do something silly like, if he plays 5 games for us, we'll give you this. I can't see how any responsible general manager would trade for him, because he's not playing.
Now the thing about the Blue Jays is, are they actually even going to offer him a qualifying offer? And at least if he does sign elsewhere, get a draft pick out of it.
You have to, and the only reason you have to is you can't let him walk for free. So it's $20 million to save the PR of having Josh Donaldson walk out the door with getting zero return.
Yeah, and I think he takes that too.
Of course he is. Yeah. He's got no suitors.
No questions asked. No questions asked. Yeah.
No, I think the Blue Jays qualify him. I think he takes it. I think they eat that whatever $20-some-odd million is, so that he can get healthy and bring them a decent return on investment. Because essentially the reality is if you don't qualify him and you don't have a trade partner, then he walks and you get nothing. And that is the worst of those 3 scenarios. All right, we got to take a break here. Very quick segment. When we come back, we're going to set up the whole show. Blue Jays trade J. Happ to the Yankees in exchange for a couple of decent prospects. They also traded O out of their bullpen, who is really having a good season. I thought that was actually one of the better pickups for Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro over the last calendar year anyway. So, you know what? They got something in return for something they didn't have to pay a lot to get. The farm report as well for the Toronto Blue Jays has a couple of players that are still doing big things, including Cavan Biggio. We hear all about the big 2, Bo and Vladdy, but there is a third guy that wants to sit at the big table. Danny Jansen, you can make a party for 4 if you really wanted to go down there. But Cavan Biggio, former Vancouver Canadian, I might add, is a guy that is starting to really turn heads because he's got 20-plus home runs, which doesn't happen very often. Vancouver Canadians had their heart broken today. 3-2 losers, bottom of the ninth. The guy that was hitting a $181 hits one out of the park in Everett, and you know the ball travels there for anybody that's actually gone there. But don't worry, Canadians are back. They're here Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, taking on the Eugene Emeralds. Friday, sellout. Saturday, sellout. Sunday, sellout. But they do have tickets to Monday and Tuesday, and Mookie Wilson is also coming to town as well. For those with a little gray in their beard, you know exactly who I'm talking about. He's a big deal. It's Vancouver Canadians game day on TSN. And their 2 losses are walk-offs to a team that hadn't walked anybody off the entire year.
And the good old extra innings rule again.
I'm not a fan, man.
No, it sucks.
But you know what I have come around on? And this is for all the baseball purists are going to hate it. I'm starting to think there should be a pitch clock in between pitches for certain pitchers. We have a guy on our team, and I'm going to throw him under the bus because he's a good arm, one of the better arms we have in the bullpen. His name is Dennis Diaz. He takes 36 seconds on average between pitches. I brought a stopwatch into the broadcast booth for his last appearance in Vancouver. The longest time in between pitches was 49 seconds.
Oh, my
wow.
God.
On
between
the break,
pitches.
That's silly. On break, you brought up Justin Nicolino. And when he was with the Canadians, the one thing we always looked forward to, 2-hour game.
Worked fast.
It worked really, really fast. It is painful watching a guy take that
Dude,
long.
it's 85, 90 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And you got a guy that's taking that long in between pitches. So the question is, how many seconds should there be between pitch? I went 20 seconds. I think 20 is plenty enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's reasonable.
But you got the clock that's right there, and if not, it's automatically a ball.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you could do that because
Ball
now
or
if the...
block?
Oh, I don't know. It has to be something. You have to penalize the guy for taking too long.
You do.
But then again, the hitter has to be in the box. So here's how it goes. Once the pitcher is on the rubber and the batter's in the box, you have 20 seconds.
And the batter can't come out.
Nor can the pitcher step off.
I'm good with that. I mean, David Ortiz might not like it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm good
just
with
the
that.
only reason is, what you're trying to speed the game up. And again, I think, Niall, you and I agree that the runner at second base to start the 10th inning is garbage.
it is.
Or Chantel says trash.
Softball rule.
Well, but I just sit there and I'm like, think about this. You've got all the momentum in the world. Your bullpen's doing good. You get this game to extras, and damn it, we're going to win this game. And then all of a sudden, you give the opposing team a runner at second. They haven't had a runner on base in 4 innings because your bullpen's locked it down. And now all of a sudden, you give them a freebie, and all of a sudden, they get a little momentum. You know how it's going is first batter bunts the guy to third, and then you take your chips away. I mean, it's people are understanding how you win this.
Well, you know
That's
what?
Unfortunate.
It really puts a premium, the extra innings rule, on strikeout pitchers in relief. It really does, because when you have that runner, if it all goes according to Hoyle, that you lay the bunt down, you get the run over to third, that's where you really need a strikeout pitcher, because any sort of contact usually does result in a run. And unfortunately, that's what really haunted the Canadians last night. Fitzgerald pitched well. I mean, he pitched well in the 9th inning, but in the 10th, unfortunately, he got ahead of the guy 0-2, and then he allowed contact. He knew as soon as the ball left the bat, the game was over. But, you go back to pitchers. I remember, when I did go to a lot of Blue Jays games, thanks to a season pass way back when. He got tickets in the upper deck, and great deal. Well, probably one of the best deals ever in professional sports. But I just remember watching guys like Miguel Batista take forever because he had like 8 or 9 different variations of pitches to choose from. Jason Frazier was also notorious for taking forever on the mound. They were basically the pitching versions of the human rain delay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me ask you, and we'll go around the table with this. What is more sacrilege in baseball? Pimping a home run that does not leave the ballpark, which we saw in game 1 of our series in Everett.
Yeah.
It was awful. Or trying to bunt to break up a no-hitter.
Trying to bunt to break up a no-hitter. No questions asked.
It depends. It depends on the situation.
Like a big bat flip. A big bat flip.
I think the bat flip is, If it doesn't leave the yard,
no.
you better start running.
Well, yeah, but stuff like that happens. The wind can be blowing in. You think you've hit it. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
You're laying down that bunt in the 8th inning of a 6-0 game, and the other guy's got
Okay, if it's a 6,
What if it's 1-0?
Yeah, if
That's
it's 1-0,
a no-hitter.
that's when.
In that case, then sure, I have no problem.
You can't wait for a game.
Well,
Yes, you can.
It depends on the situation, because you're down by a run. You're trying to get on base any way, shape, or form you can to try and be that tying runner. You're trying to win a game here, but if it's you're down 10-0 and you're being no hit and you try to lay a bunt down, that's garbage.
So it's a 1-0 game. It's a 1-0 game. In the 8th inning, the guy's throwing a no-no, and you're okay with, Johnny X, enter name here, dropping a bunt up the first base line to break up the no-no.
I'll be okay with it if he's doing it with no outs, so he'd be the leadoff runner. If there's 2 down, let's be real. The odds of a guy scoring when there's already 2 outs is nil, and then to me, that would be kind of garbage.
The next guy could hit a home run.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, I'm just saying, you can't bet on what the next guy is going to do, because the first guy can hit a home run too. No hitters, perfect games are rare. Right? These guys are all athletes. I know they're all competing, but you have to have a certain amount of respect for the guy on the other side. And you just don't throw that bat down and do that in a situation like that. Just like you don't do the bat flip if you're hitting a dinger out and it's 10-0 either. Yeah. That means what you're doing by doing that is saying, next time I come up, here's the ear hole.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is.
So I'm not even going to rat out the player that it was, but we had a player on the Vancouver Canadians in game 1 hit a high fly ball to right center field, and he puts his head down and starts the pimp walk. And then the ball bounces off the wall, comes back into play, and it ends up being a long single. So here we go. Answer this. I haven't said player. I haven't even told you the result. Did he play the next game?
Of course not.
Of course not. No, he did not. He didn't even see the field.
If he didn't run out the ground ball, he'd be on the DL like Sanchez.
Gary Sanchez?
Gary Sanchez.
What's wrong with Gary Sanchez?
Doesn't know how to run out ground balls.
One time.
Well,
They've thrown him on the DL.
yeah.
I mean, it's...
The phantom DL move.
They don't have someone in the dugout to take them on like they did in Washington when
Yeah,
Harper
so
didn't run out the
Jonathan
ground ball.
Papelbon
Yeah.
and Bryce Harper.
Whatever happened to Jonathan Papelbon?
Yeah, he just kind of
Faded
disappeared
out.
away.
Yeah, it's tough.
He's just watching baseball at home, being very intense in front of the screen.
John Rocker-ish? Not to that level. John Rocker went on the other side.
Different kind
He
of
went to the dark side.
intensity. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So Rob Manfred came out a couple of days ago, well, I guess you could almost say a couple of weeks ago now, and dropped a whole bunch of names of possible expansion teams. I'm not going to get into the Vancouver versus Portland because I think that's been pretty well documented. But should baseball expand? I mean, the reason that I say no is I think Major League Baseball's already diluted enough. Are you willing to dilute it more just so that you can, add a few teams in markets that maybe don't even need it, a la Charlotte, Nashville, Montreal, Vegas, and, say it with me, Vancouver? Would you expand baseball? Forget the market, but would you expand it?
I wouldn't expand it, but I mean, if I'm one of these teams that is in an extremely bad market, like say Oakland, I would definitely take a look at a Charlotte. And even though Portland's a smaller city, Portland, they support the teams they have. Oakland's had this problem for years. They're playing in a toilet bowl. Let's not be kind. It's not a dump. It is a toilet.
I actually think it smells like poo as well. Did they not have one of their pipes leak? No, they had one of their sewage pipes leak back into the clubhouse.
Yeah.
It actually smelled like feces.
And how it is that they are, I mean, the Raiders bailed out. They had enough of it. But Oakland could move. Let's not even get into like the Miami.
So you don't want to expand, you just want to relocate.
I think there's enough teams in Major League Baseball as is. Now, sure, could you use a couple more? But then now you're going to get these uneven divisions.
You know what? I think, Baseball America had an article, I think, a couple weeks ago. They were thinking about, maybe 32 teams that could very well happen in the future. And you know what? If anything else, if you're going to, at least realign the divisions. Instead of playing the Yankees, the Blue Jays playing the Yankees 20,000 times and the Red Sox 20,000 times, maybe just have a balanced schedule because honestly, I'm kind of tired of every second week it's Blue Jays Yankees or Blue Jays Red Sox.
Well, I don't mind having 32 teams. We can do it like the way the NFL does it. You have 8 different divisions with equal number of teams. That could work.
Yeah.
I mean, just make it so that it's equal. I mean, right now you have 15 in the National League, 15 in the American. So you have interleague play every day because of the odd number of teams per league. I think if you go the NFL model with 32 teams, 8 divisions, 4 teams each, I think that could work out. So I would say if we're going to expand, I would say maximum 2 more to make it to 32.
I think this article had, was 4 divisions of 8 teams each, but still the Jays would be with, based on the Eastern Seaboard, that sort of thing.
Well,
but I do like the 4 divisions idea though for each.
Move Detroit over again and probably Cleveland. Maybe the old American League East.
I don't know how many years it's been, but I still can't get used to having the Brewers in the National League and Houston in the American League.
Yeah.
I'm so used to that. And maybe that's me just showing how old I am, but every time I think of Houston, American League champions, I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
I know that they're there, and it's not like a, oh my God, I'm dumb moment, but it's just kind of I'm still not used to it after all of these years. I could, with my eyes closed, still do the 7 teams in the American League East, 7 teams in the American League West.
Sure.
That to me
easily
was a true race. Now, the reason that I bring this up, if we're going to get into divisions, is right now Baltimore is 40 plus games out of first place. Their season is long over, be it the wild card or obviously the division. I think they're mathematically 2 weeks away from being out of the playoff chase in their division. I brought this up a couple of weeks ago, and I know where you all stand on it, but I just flipped the page on the Vancouver Canadians schedule, a team that missed a chance at the postseason by a game and a half because they didn't have the tiebreaker, so you had the half game.
Yeah.
Bottom line, we're 1-2 in the second half, but everybody's still talking playoffs. Everybody still has a renewed sense of optimism, as does Eugene, Salem, Boise, insert team in the Northwest League here. Could you make a case for making Major League Baseball season split so that you don't lose the interest of 8 to 10 markets that are already well out of a playoff race?
you'd have to totally change the divisional structure and make it 4 divisions.
Which is doable, but would you?
I wouldn't. We've discussed this before. I'm still a fan of 2 divisions, and the 2 division winners being it. That's baseball. It's the long haul, and you're rewarded for excellence through the course of a season.
Yeah, but we got to look at it from a different perspective. You're looking at it from a diehard fan's perspective. I'm looking at it from the PR and the marketability of a 30-team league where right now, and you want to avoid what the NBA is doing because the NBA is already written for the next 2 years. I mean, why even show up in markets like Phoenix, Milwaukee? I mean, I know people are going to be, well, what about the Greek Freak? But again, in 16 of the 30 markets, don't even bother because you don't have a shot. Baseball has enough that you could make the case that, you know what, the wild card was good for baseball. But, I mean, without even going online, I can tell you right now, Kansas City, Baltimore, there's a bunch of teams right now, Cincinnati, forget it. But at the midway point of the season, you don't have to change your rotations. You don't have to change your personnel. Trade deadline, we can have a conversation about because I know that kind of, screws that synchronology up, but I don't think that's a word. But I sit here and I say to myself, why wouldn't you at least give a clean slate to a third of the teams in Major League Baseball to reinvigorate their fan base, to keep the television deals interesting? Because trust me, you bought a TV package to Orioles radio this year. Nobody's watching the Orioles on TV anymore. No one. So why wouldn't you at least? Because I can tell you this, when the Canadians went to a split season, it has kept our fan engagement all the way through the 76th game of the season. So I throw it open to you guys. And Lou, I got your opinion already. KP now, maybe I'll get yours. Would you or could you make that move?
Yeah, you know what? I would be in favor of it. I think something has to change. Look at what the Blue Jays went through, like basically 20 plus years in the wilderness after 1992 and 1993. Growing up as Blue Jays fans, we had 1983 to 1993. You know what? Blue Jays fans were absolutely spoiled, but boy, speaking as a Jays fan, we certainly found out how the other half lived for the next 20 years until 2015 came aboard. And, I remember 1986. I remember basically all the races were over. I mean, of course, you'll remember it for a terrific postseason, but basically it just seemed like every race was over that year, and I am in favor of a split season.
I'm going to have to disagree with you now on that one a little bit because, in 98, the Blue Jays were in a wild card race, and I think that maybe the fans in Toronto maybe scoff at the wild card, but they were right there until the last couple of weeks of the season. They were in the same situation in 99 and 2000. They were battling the Cleveland Indians the final weekend of the regular season for that wild card. So there was some excitement in 98, 99, 2000. They just didn't get that wild card spot, but it was exciting, the second half of the season when the Blue Jays did come on. But I do get your point about not making the playoffs, period, and having to watch the other teams make it. But just a split season format, I think I touched on this a couple of weeks ago, where if you are having a split season, the team that has the best record over the 162 game stretch might not make the playoffs because somebody got hot in the first half and had more wins, or somebody else got hotter in the second half and had more wins. But I know it is kind of messed up that way, but it's happened before in the 81 strike season. The other thing is, again, this is alluding to what Lou said earlier, if you have shown excellence over a 162 game season or a 162 game schedule, you deserve, to be in the playoffs. And it's just baseball isn't meant to be, Major League Baseball anyway isn't meant to be played with halves. If your team isn't good enough to make it, tough luck. Do better next season.
Yeah, as you brought up, KP, they have had a split season once, 1981, in the National League. The 2 teams with the best records did not make
the Reds and the Cardinals.
Reds and the Cardinals did not make the playoffs. Now, if you're the fan of one of those teams and you are the best team in baseball, kind of like the Expos were in 94, how ticked off would you be that something like that happened and you're on the outside looking in?
Nah.
Well, that's a different story. The 94 Expo.
No, but I'm just saying there was you've got the best team.
Yep.
And you're
Agreed.
sitting at home.
Yep. The Reds, yeah, and also the
Cardinals.
St. Louis Cardinals, having the second best record.
All right, we got to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to talk more baseball. This is Vancouver Canadians Game Day, as always, powered by Booster Juice. Hold the music just for a second. When we come back, in addition to baseball, I want your thoughts. A zoo in Cairo is accused of painting a donkey to look like a zebra, so that they can increase what they charge for people to get into the zoo.
Quiet. Aquilinis are listening.
Think about that. That's the most genius thing I've ever thought of in my life. Hey, grab the donkey. We're going to put stripes on it today. It's going to be amazing. We're going to make more money. All right, we'll take a break. Maybe we won't bring it up. Who knows? The Aquilini dig. That's cold-blooded, man. All right, we'll take a break right here. This is Vancouver Canadians Game Day, powered by Booster Juice, right here on TSN 1040. KP, why were you so quick to say no?
Well, Lou's point was that with his career numbers as a catcher, he makes it. But if you look at the numbers a little bit deeper, he had 8 full seasons as a big league catcher, where he obviously won the MVP, made a bunch of All-Star games,
Couple of batting titles,
Gold gloves.
But over the course of his career, he doesn't scream Hall of Famer to me.
But this brings up the bigger question, and I know you're ready to go. Just hold on the thought, because I want you to answer that question and the other one, which is, are we now at the point where we start having to change the prerequisite of what a Hall of Famer is?
We've had this conversation.
That's what I'm saying. But Joe Mauer is the perfect example of why you're going to have to change that, because you say he's a Hall of Famer, but he doesn't have any Hall of Fame numbers.
He's barely got he's got just over 2,000 hits.
Would you like to talk about Edgar Martinez again and compare him to Joe Mauer?
Could you have that conversation?
You certainly can. One guy does nothing but hit. One guy sat behind the plate and squatted for 150 games.
Edgar Martinez never even had a 2,000 hit season. I'm not in favor
200
of him.
hits.
Wow, 2,000, that'd be something.
200
Intro's like,
Well, you know where he's going.
Yeah.
You know where he's going.
Okay, when we look at the list of all-time leaders by position, and where you play does mean something. It does mean something.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
First baseman and third baseman are expected to have more home runs than second baseman and shortstop, unless your name's Alex Rodriguez. Catchers are not expected to have a long, prosperous hitting career. Jorge Posada, Hall of Famer, check his numbers. They're not going to compare to Joe Mauer's, but I would argue that Jorge Posada is also a borderline Hall of Famer because he's a catcher.
He's going to get into the Hall of Fame.
I think so too.
Yeah.
He played for New York during their prime. And that whole collection of Yankees is getting in the Hall of Fame because of the market they played in and the success they had with the 4 World Series in 5
Joe
years.
Mauer has had 3 Gold Gloves as a catcher, 1 MVP, yes, 300, hitting over 300 as a catcher, yes, a couple of batting titles.
I think you're building his case right there,
But,
honestly,
You are. I think you're talking yourself in a corner.
Joe Mauer is currently first all-time in batting average as a catcher.
Yeah.
First all-time on base percentage. Okay? In terms of hits, he is have to check that there. But he's getting in there. And like I said, the guy's won an MVP. How many catchers have won MVPs? I think 5. See, Campanella, Berra, Bench, Posey.
Piazza, maybe?
Piazza never won an MVP.
He never won one.
He never did.
Like, when you're a catcher and you accomplish big offensive numbers, it is a big deal, and you're rewarded for that. And I think the fact that he's crossed over 2,000, he's got the MVP, Gold Gloves aside, he's got a couple of batting titles. I mean, he has a better chance of getting in, quite honestly, and a better argument than Edgar Martinez has. And I know that there's some people here who think Edgar Martinez is a no-brainer.
Not me.
Not me either.
No, I don't think so either. But
I'll be the dissenting
not
voice.
not because he's a DH.
no.
A lot of people will say he's the best hitter of his generation.
I would.
No.
He's not of the same generation as Tony Gwynn, right? No. Gwynn, I put like 5 to 7 years ahead of him.
Ichiro.
Ooh, Ichiro might be. But see, people don't like Ichiro's approach. People love him. Well, you got to remember, I think I saw his spray chart of his countless amount of hits, and it is I want to say something like 16 or 1700 of them are infield base hits. That to me is not a predominant hitter in baseball. That's a guy that just knows how to get on base. And I know what people are saying. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about because Ichiro is a perennial 200 hit a year guy. Yeah. But the style of baseball that Ichiro plays is incredibly Japanese. And that just happened to translate to the American game, which doesn't always happen. Edgar Martinez is more of a gaps and down the line kind of guy, which is a little more, easy on the North American eyes. So you want to talk about who's the better hitter, Ichiro against Edgar Martinez? That's really 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, depending on what you consider to be a hitter. Is it a guy that gets on base, or is it a guy that essentially plays more the North American style game where you're okay banging it off the walls?
Yeah. No, I mean, I can totally understand that. I mean, we've had a discussion before about Pete Rose, and I don't consider Pete Rose one of the best hitters of all time. He just happened to have a lot of at-bats, and Ichiro could fall into that category. I mean, Pete Rose's career batting average is, I'm going to guess, it's like 3.0 something. So he's certainly not among the best hitters. Yeah, he's got the most hits, although Ichiro's collection of hits is higher now. So I can totally see that argument in that sense, because Ichiro's career average, as his career's moved on, has definitely fallen. Yeah. And he's hung on for a long time. He probably should have walked away a couple of years ago. So I can buy that argument where who's the better hitter? I mean, neither one of these guys is George Brett. That's fair.
What are you saying? George Brett's better than all of them?
Oh, yeah. Power and average.
And also, I know you guys
in a much
don't...
more difficult era to hit.
Okay, let me ask you this: if you had one pick and you had your choice of either Tony Gwynn or George Brett, who are you going to take?
George Brett.
I'd take Gwynn.
I would take Gwynn too.
I know Dusty Baker would take Larry Walker, but I'd take Gwynn.
Dude, Dusty Baker, who was in Vancouver like a week or so ago, had nothing but heaps of praise for Larry Walker. Said he was the second best hitter of his generation outside of
Barry Bonds. I was shocked when I heard that, because he managed it in the NL West with hitters like Piazza, with Gwynn. So that's got.
Well, we're talking about the all-around package, though.
Sure.
The 5 tools, not just the hitting. You would take George Brett, no-brainer, over Tony Gwynn as a hitter.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, I know George Brett is good, but I don't know if George Brett is Tony Gwynn good.
He beats him across the board, except in average and hits.
And Brett did get 3,000 hits.
Yeah, he got 3,000 hits.
I don't know.
He got a bunch of home runs.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that's the thing. Gwynn wasn't really, great hitter, but not power.
Great hitter, but not a power guy.
Yeah, Brett I'd have to lean with George Brett.
Yeah, Brett kind of did a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So,
and really, he was the reason the Blue Jays did not win the World Series.
Let's not go there. Doyle Alexander is calling, saying, "Stop talking about George Brett."
Well, you know what, George Brett, by the way, one of the game's great showmans as well. Always good for a clip. And I actually think that hurt Tony Gwynn. 2 things hurt Tony Gwynn. He played in San Diego, and he was a soft-spoken guy that didn't really put himself out there. And, baseball is all about backslapping and ass-slapping, and George Brett fit that profile perfectly. And don't get me wrong, he's got more than 150 home runs than Tony Gwynn, but Tony Gwynn's got him by nearly 30 points on the career batting average. I'm just not ready to anoint George Brett. He hits 30 points more over a career than George Brett. That's pretty significant. All right. Speaking of the San Diego Padres, you know what? I think we could both lay claim to having something right in that conversation. The San Diego Padres net right now are kicking tires, to get back to the trade talk, on Noah Syndergaard. If you are a team right now, and Syndergaard's been out with the oblique, he's been out with the shoulder, he's been out with the elbow, he has the hand, foot, mouth. I mean, if there's a way for Syndergaard to find a way on the shelf, he's found it over the last year and a half. Would you kick tires on him?
Of course I would.
Would you kick tires on him if you were the Toronto Blue Jays?
Yes.
What would you be willing to give? Would you give Marcus Stroman up for Noah Syndergaard?
Straight up, absolutely.
I would too. I totally would too. It's 2 birds with 1 stone.
I would have to. It would be a very, very interesting, long thought process of Sanchez straight up for him. Like, Syndergaard is The potential is there, and they've both been injury prone.
Yeah.
Right. Sanchez has had the blister problems and things like that, and when they were all together, the big three, we always had who's going to be the guy, and it was a different person. You said Syndergaard. And considering his physical stature and makeup, he's probably got the best possibility of the longer career.
But the problem is he throws 101 miles an hour. The torque on that arm. I don't care if you're from Texas or wherever.
I think if you get him out of New York, you can get him to relax a bit, though.
Yeah, I don't know if Syndergaard is a big city kind of guy.
Thor.
So why would
they made him that? That's not
exactly,
what he is.
Exactly.
Why would the Mets do a trade like that straight up?
You never know what the team is going to do.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
if they want to move guys,
That's
or
a change of scenery, classic change of scenery trade.
I mean, there's been rumors about the Mets moving all kinds of people.
That's right.
It's you never know when a guy is going to go when the team is doing badly, and they're doing badly. They're in last place in really what should be a 2-team division, and that division is, it's a mess.
I think the Marlins are in last place, but
no, actually the Mets are.
The Mets.
Syndergaard, by the way, is 6-1 this year with a 2.89 ERA
how many
in
innings?
74 innings.
Yeah.
He's got 83 strikeouts. But here's the thing that impresses me the most, and I'm a big strikeout to walk ratio guy. 83 strikeouts to 15 walks.
And he can hit.
Well, irrelevant. But I don't know. I sit around and I say to myself, he will forever be, in my estimation, the guy that got away.
Yeah.
And now Jeff Hoffman was another guy that was a first rounder by the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah.
And they sent him to Colorado as a part of the Troy Tulowitzki deal. And Jeff Hoffman was another guy, sight unseen. I had never seen him. That I said, boy, that's going to come back and bite. And Jeff Hoffman, although his ERA is a career 5.88 and he's 6-9 in Colorado, he's still just now starting to find his way. And I sit here and I say to myself, boy, if I'm the Toronto Blue Jays and I'm trying to collect assets, I don't think I've been wowed by anything that they brought in so far, what could bring me an asset? Who on the roster right now could physically bring me an asset? The only two are Stroman and Sanchez, or somebody from the minor leagues, which you would already consider an asset. So I don't know. I mean, to get to the minor league talk here for a couple of moments, you look at a guy like Kevin Biggio. A guy that's got 20-plus home runs. He is not one of the two big-name guys. He's not Bo. He's not Vladdy Nile. He's not Danny Jansen. Is he a guy that could actually bring you a piece that would diversify what you have? Because it seems right now like they went out and got another infielder. They've got Solarte. They've got Gurriel. Maybe Kevin Biggio is the perfect guy to go out and get you an arm like you lost in Jeff Hoffman.
Well, something's got to give because there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen when it comes to the infield. Brandon Drury and Solarte are very similar, but Kevin Biggio, he's having a terrific season. Just looking at the MLB.com prospect list, they just revised it, and Biggio went from unranked to number 9. So, and again, as mentioned, leads AA in home runs in the Eastern League. 21 now, I believe he has. So, I don't know. Is this a time maybe where you think about maybe trading him and, dealing while he's hot?
I'm a bit concerned about his batting average and the number of strikeouts that he has piled up. But, hitting under 260 with well over 100 strikeouts already. He's definitely got the power and the potential, but I don't know, the batting average and the strikeout rates do concern me a bit.
I would just sell high because the sexy number right now is the home runs. Sure. It shows that an infielder with 20-plus home runs.
Fair enough.
Well, once again, if you can get something reasonable coming back, and at this point, you're not going to give away a young player when you're a team that's in a rebuild mode unless you can get a young prospect.
Well, this is all I'm saying. You would trade prospect for prospect. We'll give you an infielder with 20-plus home runs. You give us an arm like a Jeff Hoffman.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll take a break here. When we come back, our final segment, we'll get ready for the Vancouver Canadians, who have a 5-game homestand that starts tomorrow. And Mookie Wilson is coming to town. We'll debate his place in baseball history. Is it really more than just one moment that was called by the greatest broadcaster of them all in the World Series? You listen to the Vancouver Canadians Game Day right here on TSN. Okay, how about this? Starting 9, a 5-man rotation, 4 bullpen arms, and a closer.
Okay.
Well, Expos win easily.
Yeah.
KP, you don't know what you're talking about.
I'll take John.
I'll give you
John Wetland.
John Wetland over Tom Henke.
Mel Rojas, setup man.
Dwayne Ward.
Yeah.
Randy
Mike Timlin.
Johnson?
Jeff Reardon when he was good.
Oh, Randy Johnson, when he played with the Expos, couldn't hit the side of a barn. Pedro,
Won a Cy Young.
Roger Clemens.
Dennis
Roger
Cy Young.
Clemens won back-to-back Cy Youngs.
Yes,
Dennis
he did.
Martinez won
Pat
the Harry
Henry.
title.
Pat Henkin.
I don't know, man. I think we could have this debate.
Oh, no, it would be interesting
Dave
because
Speed.
I think pitching-wise, I think the Jays would come out on top. But in terms of in the field, the Jays have had a couple of really good players.
Yeah.
The Expos can line the field.
Gary
like
Carter catching.
superstar.
Yeah.
Andre Dawson, Vladdy in the same outfield.
Okay,
Wow.
fine. Okay, fine. You know what? They got a better catcher, but the outfield is not as easy as you think. Just because they had Tim Raines and Andre Dawson.
And Vladdy.
Ooh, that
And
is
Larry
a pretty good
Walker.
third.
I guess Larry Walker will just
Yeah.
have to play in the infield somewhere.
there you
Is
go.
it that easy? Are they
Well,
actually
I'm
that
saying,
much
but
better?
And that's leaving out guys like Ellis Valentine.
Moises Alou
Yeah,
be on the
I mean,
bench.
they
Marquise
had-
Grissom.
Like, they had lots of really, really good players
So can I count Ricky Henderson?
for a couple of weeks. Sure.
I mean, I got a better third base. I got Paul Mahler. You got Tim Wallach.
we got Otis Nixon as a
Paul
pinch
Mulder,
runner.
Paul Mulder was a DH.
Okay, I got to think about this because there's no way it's that obvious. There's no way. Don't get me wrong. The Expos have had some great players, but
I think the Jays would get them in pitching, but I think like
okay, we got a week.
The field, yeah.
You guys get your band together. We'll get our band together.
All right.
We'll see what we come up with. Chantel, you might be the tiebreaker here because I know that you don't know this. Just say Toronto or Montreal.
Toronto.
Done.
Easy.
All right, we
Oliver.
win. Oh, nice. No, Al Oliver played for both teams.
That's right. He
That's
did.
true. He played-
He
he-
helped out in '85 for the Blue Jays.
He
That's
was
right.
good when
Yeah.
he was with Montreal.
Cliff Johnson.
Yeah, he just played with
Heathcliff,
Jays.
yes.
I'm going to go home and I'm actually going to really talk. Okay, we got to get.
Johnson platoon with Burrows. Oliver replaced them both.
Okay, all right. We have to Willie Upshot, Damaso Garcia. Okay, here we go. Vancouver Canadians are back home, so now I'm pissed because now you've brought this up and it really bothers me because I thought it was a no-brainer and you've made a really good case and I'm not sure I'm ready for this conversation. I need a week. KP, don't say a word. All right, so we start tomorrow with a 5-game homestand due the Vancouver Canadians. Friday sold out, Saturday sold out, Sunday sold out, but we do have tickets to Monday and Tuesday, and Mookie Wilson is coming to town. Gentlemen, our final topic of Vancouver Canadians Game Day powered by Booster Juice. How will baseball remember Mookie Wilson? Is he a one-trick pony just because he's part of one of the most infamous plays in baseball history? Or do you look at his career and say, you know what? Maybe he was a little underrated.
Myself personally, yeah. I mean, of course, you'll always think about the Bill Buckner play, but for me, I just remember when he came to Toronto and how much of a fan favorite he was right off the bat. And it reminds me because the very first game I attended at Skydome was August 1st. That was Mookie Wilson's debut against the Kansas City Royals. And I remember he should have gotten a base hit. He should have been credited with an infield single. He was safe. I thought he was safe. Of course, he didn't have instant replay back then to review it, but I thought he was safe. But anyway, to make a long story short, he was a fan favorite right off the bat. And he was one of the big reasons why the Jays were able to rally in 1989 and win the American League East.
The casual fans are going to remember him being, the key player in the '86 World Series with that wild pitch and, getting that ground ball to first base. But I think in Toronto, he would be remembered just exactly for what Niall said. I do want to point out one thing, though, as well. I talked to Pat Gillick a few years ago, and he told me that he thought the 91 Blue Jays was a better team than the 92 Blue Jays team that won the championship. And what I remember about 91 was Cito Gaston would keep putting Mookie Wilson into the lineup as a DH or in the outfield, even though, Mookie clearly had lost a step. I think it cost him a lot of, it cost him some games that year because, at DH, you put Wilson in, and also I think platooning with Tabler and some other guys. They hit only 4 home runs in that DH spot. So that's why I remember about 91. And again, Hall of Famer GM Gillick saying the 91 team was better than 92. That's why I remember Wilson in the last couple of seasons of his career.
Now, I mean, I remember Mookie Wilson as a Met. First things first, his name was Mookie. You're going to remember that when you're a kid. When he was with the Mets, he was a damn fine leadoff hitter. He batted over 280, and back then, that was a big deal. He stole a bucket load of bases. By the time he got to Toronto, he was on the tail end. The legs are going a bit.
Yeah.
But when he was with the New York Mets, and if you followed baseball, he was one of the top leadoff hitters in the game. I remember him being a very good leadoff hitter in an era when there were a lot of good leadoff hitters, and he was kind of buried there. And yeah, of course, got to remember the World Series.
Who's better, Mookie Betts or Mookie Wilson?
Mookie Blaylock. No, I don't know.
Oh, wow. Ooh, good for you.
That's the only other Mookie I can think of.
Wow, Niall waits till the 11th hour to come out with a haymaker. All right.
Trivia.
Yeah, that's not bad. Okay, so again, Vancouver Canadians in action starting tomorrow. We will have full blanket coverage of the Canadians throughout the entire weekend and early into next week right here on TSN 1040. And we're thrilled to have you along for the ride. Our A&B Tour Reynolds pregame show will start at 6. First pitch is either at 7:05 or at 1:05. You can go to CanadiansBaseball.com and get your tickets there. We are going to give away, we're going to finish this up strong. We're going to give away a 4-pack of tickets to see Mookie Wilson. All you got to do right now is call 604-280-1040. 280-604-1040. We will take caller 4 if you want to see Mookie Wilson on Monday the 30th. That's all you got to do. Give us a call. All right, on behalf of Niall O'Donnell, holy cow! Tom Manek is here. The hot tamale. I haven't seen this guy in ages, man. This is awesome. All right, so the phone line's already starting to light up. We appreciate you doing that. 604-280-1040. You got to be able to go to the game on Monday. You can't call me up. Don't bother Chantel. Tell me you got some court appearance that you got to get to, so you'd rather do Tuesday or some other day on the calendar. You've got to be willing to go to the game on Monday. It's Mookie Monday, as they say in the suburbs. But I'm telling you, it'll be worth it because Friday sold out, Saturday sold out, Sunday sold out. But Mookie Mania on Monday, we do have tickets available. Shane from Abbotsford, you're the guy. We won't even bring you on air because we don't do you like that, and you're probably stuck in traffic somewhere. But we got full boards right now, and we're thrilled that you called in. Again, next week, an abbreviated Vancouver Canadians Game Day show, just the 1 hour, I believe. I don't know. Maybe T-Mart's got full coverage on Portugal or something like that. But we'll figure it out. Nonetheless, you can go to CanadiansBaseball.com and find out that schedule. We'll find out a whole bunch of stuff in the next couple of days. Vancouver Canadians today fell by a score of 3-2. It came in the bottom of the ninth. Troy Dixon, the only thing he's hit is his forehead going into the dugout. And then all of a sudden decides to step up in the ninth inning and hit a solo home run that sunk the Canadians. Canadians are 1-2, but again, nothing like home cooking. And I can tell you this, the Canadians are going to be in a good place with 5 sold-out stadiums. More than 30,000 fans coming out to the Nat over the course of the long weekend. Or the weekend. It'll be long for me because I'll be working. But anyhow, on behalf of Niall O'Donoghue, KPW, the statistical assassin, Lou Filippo, so Lou says on Twitter, I'm Rob Fay for the final time. And Chantel, Miss Chantel, thank you as well for everything that you did and all your insight on the Expos and the Blue Jays. I'm Rob Fay. We'll do this again 7 days from now. This has been Vancouver Canadians Game Day, powered by Booster Juice on TSN 1040.